Hello, everyone. I'm so excited to be here. I'm so excited for this event, and I'm just going to give it a little time for you to pop on. If you are here and you're watching the replay, give me a little thumbs up, give me a heart, give me a like, let me know that you're here, and know that I'll be just sitting here for a moment waiting for people to pop on live so that nobody who's watching live misses anything important, especially here in the beginning. So if you're watching the replay, you can skip forward a little bit. If you are with me live, just give me a little wave so that I know you're here and know that I'll be getting started with the content on this event in just a few moments, because I know that, things happen. People don't show up on time. And if you are here, I'm glad you made it. I'm so excited to be here for this event and share this information with you. I've been working on it for the last week, basically nonstop. And I've had those experiences where I'm like, man, this is good stuff. I don't know if as a presenter, I'm supposed to say those kinds of things, but I'm not really a rule follower. You may know that about me. I am just so pumped about this information because what was coming through was just, I kept thinking in my head, all of the participants in this event are going to find so much value in this information, and it's going to help so many people. So you may have realized that I changed the format. I was going to do a room here on Facebook, which is kind of like a Zoom call. But I realized in testing it out that I can't record it. And to me, it was more important to record it than to be able to see all of your faces, as much as I would love to see your faces, because I know how busy everyone is. And I wanted to make sure that this was going to be available to people who weren't able to make it live. So in the future, if I do things like this, I may do it on Zoom. But for now, I'm on live. And being on live is kind of strange because interaction isn't as easy. But I would love it if you just have it be as conversational as possible so that I can get a little feedback from you and just hear how you're doing and give me a little wave. So without further ado, let's get started. Here we are, day 1 of Mom School, what your daughter wants you to know. So if you don't know me, I'm Jennifer Della Quadri. I am a certified professional coach. I work mostly with teen girls and women of all ages. So basically anyone who identifies as female, I work with them. I'm their person. And this event kind of was created amongst the year or the time that I've spent, basically hundreds of hours I've spent in conversation with my teen clients, really getting a profound insight into what it's like to be a teen today. And I know that as moms, your daughter may not be telling you everything of her experience, and that's where this event came from. Because when I'm on a call with a teen, so many times, first, I just feel honored that I'm the person that she's able to let these things out to. But second, my second thought is, man, if only her mom knew these things. And so I compiled all of that information, put it together, and now I'm delivering it to you. So in this 3-day event, so if you're here, basically you're wanting to get a closer relationship with your daughter or understand her world a little bit better, you're in the right place. Today, I'll be sharing a little bit of an insight from the perspective of your daughter and teenagers today, and what it's like basically to be a teenager today, the ins and outs, and basically what your daughter wants you to know about her world and the world of her generation. Then tomorrow, I'll be getting a little bit more into the fears that she has and where they're coming from. And on day 3, it's probably the most valuable day. You're not going to want to miss any of the days, but day 3 is going to be huge because that's when I'm going to be telling you what you can do to support your daughter. So you'll be hearing a lot of inside workings of what your daughter is thinking and what she wants you to know, which will leave you thinking, what am I supposed to do? Know that that's coming on day 3. So you're not going to want to miss that one for sure. So I'll also stay around and ask or answer any questions, whether they be live or they be after the event. I'll be checking back regularly and answering any questions that come up. Take all of the information that I give you, knowing that you are the expert on your daughter. You're her mom. You know her best. I am speaking generally. So if something doesn't resonate with you or you don't agree with something I say, question yourself about it. Always be approaching this information from a place of curiosity. Always be in the inquiry of, how do I feel about this and why? And is the way I feel about this serving me? All right, so that is the introduction. And on to day one. So today I'm going to be sharing with you 7 things that your daughter wants you to know and talk a little bit about why and where they come from. The first one, before I even get to the first one, if you have your journal, now's a great time to grab it, grab a pen, because I want you to start by reflecting. And obviously, if you're driving or if you're doing something where you can't write, you can reflect just in your mind and in your thoughts. But I want you to think back to what your life was like when you were your daughter's age. So just think back on yourself, whatever age your daughter is, and all of you have daughters that are different ages. So think about your daughter's age and then picture yourself when you were her age. And just think about what you did, what was important to you, where you would go, right? And in your journal or just in reflection, I want you to write about any part of the following questions that feels like calls to you. So what did you do each day? How did you spend your days? Where or what were your biggest challenges? When you look back on that age, what was hard for you? What did you struggle with the most? And your first answer is always the best answer. Also, what did you do when you were with your friends? What did you talk about? What activities did you do? Where did you go? And what was that like? Think about that, write about that. And what did you do when you were with your family? What was it like being at home? When you were not at school and when you were just in your place? And then what was it like at school? So really reflect on 3 different areas of your life: your friends, your family, and your school life. And what were your dreams for the future? So if you're with me live, I'm going to give you a little bit of time to just write about that. And if you would like to share, it would be great if you could put anything in the comments that you remember. And my purpose of this is to get you thinking about your teen years. Okay, so I'll give you just a moment to think about that, write about that. And again, if you have anything that you have an insight on or just what it was like for you, feel free to share in the chat. I see some people popping on. So good to have you here. Thank you for joining us. We're just writing about and reflecting on our teen years and what it was like for us to be a teen growing up. And so while you're writing, feel free to tune me out. But while you're writing, just speaking from my personal experience, my girls are 14 and 16. And so when I think back to when I was 16 years old, for example, all I cared about was driving, going somewhere, being free, talking on the phone with my friends, constantly talking on the phone with my friends, wanting to be with my friends all the time. And when I was at school, same thing. It was very socially oriented. And being at home by that age, I didn't probably spend as much time with my parents as I had when I was younger. So those of you who have younger kids, maybe you're not there yet. Those of you who have older teens, you know exactly what I'm talking about. You probably were the same way. So give me a little thumbs up, or just give me a little wave or whatever if you've gotten a little bit of reflection done, so that I know that you're ready to move on. I know that you can always go back to this reflection. It's a constant reflection of what your experience was. So think about that and just hold it in your mind and know that as a human and as a mom, the first thing you're going to want to do when you see your daughter going through things is to look back on your life at that time. Thank you. You're going to look back and you're going to look from your experience to help you understand what she's going through. And that's only natural. That's a natural human response. I need to understand this from my perspective so that I can help her. But here's what I want to offer you. And this is what she wants you to know. Number one is that things are different for her. And I don't mean just different in the environment. So much of her generation and their experience is vastly different from ours. And if you ever have conversations with your daughter about what her friend groups and everyone are talking about, you're probably fully aware of this. So not only with social media, that's a huge difference. Obviously, they've had access to the world basically since they were born. And even if you have kept her away from social media or she hasn't had too much exposure to it, she has friends who have exposure to social media. So what her friends experience and see on social media, she's also going to have access to. And her generation is really challenging the social constructs of that many of us were brought up just accepting. And they also have a huge awareness around mental health. And so that's what they're talking about. They're talking about challenging these societal norms, and they're also talking about mental health. So there's a huge awareness for her around what is going on in the world. And we didn't have that. And it's very different, not only with social media, but she went through a global pandemic as a teenager. And think about the impact that that had on her. And not only just her, but the people she comes in contact with. So even if you look back on your life and you can relate to the general experience she has, it's totally different. The way you can relate to her, though, is in how you felt. When you were going through the things, when you were with your friends, what was it like? How did it feel? That's how you can relate with her and understand. But in general, what she's experienced is not like what you experienced as a teen in a lot of ways. Okay, so that's the first thing she wants you to know, is that things are different for her. And by judging her generation's experience, she feels judged. So if you're ever noticing that you make fun of the things that her generation does, and of course it can be fun, but she can take that personally and make it can feel to her like her experience is not valid, it's not important, or it's something to be made fun of. So I'll talk more on Wednesday about how to approach this. But for now, I just want you to pay attention to the differences that your daughter has in her life versus the way you grew up as a teen. So her experience is different. Number 2, she's doing the best that she can. And the reason why you may be seeing from an outside perspective that she's not trying is that her nervous system is taxed with constant stimulation, with constant fear of the future, with constant bombardment of news and information. It's overwhelming to her. and she hasn't learned how to regulate her nervous system to handle it. So she's doing the very best she can. And you may see it as either one, she does everything, she's a perfectionist, nothing is ever good enough, and she's constantly striving, or she's pulling back, not giving her full effort, retreating, and kind of half-assing things. And so when you see that, you may judge it as something has gone wrong, but she wants you to know that she's doing the best that she can with the tools that she has, and that it's really hard for her. But she may not even be aware that that's what's going on. So she's trying the best that she can, and she wants you to know that. So if you find the need to see her as being lazy or too hard on herself, pull back and know that it's not lazy. It's something far, far deeper that's going on with her. Number 3, and this kind of goes along with it, is she's very hard on herself. She's constantly judging herself internally, whether she realizes it or not, and comparing herself and seeing how she measures up, either to her friends and her peers or to you. And her brain is constantly taking her to the ways that she doesn't measure up. And so that's where the hard work comes in. It's exhausting. So by being hard on herself, again, you may see that symptom of perfectionism or pulling back and just not giving it her all. It's because she's exhausted. She really is. And she is trained, and it's ingrained in her mind to constantly be judging herself and questioning herself and seeing where she doesn't measure up. And that also is a construct or the result of her experience constantly being given or being exposed. That's the word I wanted. Being exposed to social media constantly. Being judged against people she knows and people she doesn't know all the time. And so she's extra hard on herself. And you can probably relate to that as just a person and as a woman. That's pretty much what it was like for us teens growing up. But it's exploded. It's on a grand scale, a huge scale, where you would compare yourself to Marcy, who lived down the street. She's comparing herself to someone who doesn't even live in this country. She doesn't even know her name. And there's thousands upon thousands and millions of them. So that is exhausting for her. And she's really hard on herself. Okay, number 4. Oh, before I do that, when you're hard on her, it makes it even harder for her. And that's not to say that you don't hold her accountable, because again, Wednesday I'll talk about this, but be aware of when you're being hard on her, because she's already beating herself up. And when you layer yourself on top of that, it makes it even harder for her. All right, number 4, she needs the freedom to figure herself out. And as I mentioned, she's her own person with her own experiences. And that's not to say that the values you've raised her with aren't important, because they are. But deep inside, whether consciously or unconsciously, she has a plan for herself and needs and wants for her life. And if she doesn't feel safe being able to explore that, then she will likely fall into a pattern of either doing what she thinks society wants her to do or what's expected of her to do, or end up doing something that isn't really interesting and doesn't fill her up. And following that lifestyle, following that path for her, leads to feelings of anxiety, feelings of depression. And so by giving her that freedom to figure herself out and explore her innate gifts and passions, you're basically saying, I want you to be who you are and who you want to be versus who I want you to be or who I hope you to be. Because we can all agree as moms, what we really want for our daughter is for her to be happy. And if you are stifling her ability to explore her passions or judging her passions or judging her approach, it hinders her ability to really get to know herself and really decide what she wants for herself. So figuring yourself out, number 4. Number 5, she needs to fail. And I know that this is brought up a lot in our society, the importance of failing, but take a moment just to think about, imagine your daughter trying something that she cares deeply about and then failing. And the chances are that it brings up in you feelings from your past that are painful. And so it's natural that as her mom, you would want to protect her, keep her from feeling that way because it hurts. But if you keep her from failing, if you wrap her in bubble wrap and make her live in this little bubble and never fail, she's going to see failure as being a problem. Whereas failure is an essential part of growth. So by seeing failure is, oh gosh, I fail, there's something wrong, something has gone wrong, there's something wrong with me, she won't try things if she thinks she's going to fail. If she is able to internalize the idea that failure is necessary and experience, yeah, okay, that hurt, let's reevaluate, let's decide what to do differently and try again. It's not a problem. Just like a child learning to walk. The first time she fell, you didn't pick her up and say, oh, sorry, I guess you can't walk. Or you didn't wrap her up in your arms and not allow her to walk. You knew that that was a normal part of her development, an absolutely necessary part of her development, as is her failure in all other areas. That includes school, sports, friendships, relationships, jobs, all the things. That's how she learns about herself, and that's how she figures herself out. All right, number 6. She needs you to allow her to feel her feelings. And I don't know about you, I'm guessing you had the same experience as I did. Our generation was very much brought up to the tune of, suck it up, buttercup. Stop complaining, it's not that hard. Right? Get over it. Stop crying. There's nothing to cry about. Like, why are you so emotional? All those things. And that feeling feelings is a sign of weakness. And so many of us have internalized that idea that it's not okay to be sad. It's not okay to cry. It's not okay to get emotional because those things are to be hidden. You only want to give the most positive, the most professional, outward appearance. That's what I'm trying to say. The outward appearance that everything's okay. But that is absolutely not the way that your daughter needs to be living her life. So she has a lot of big emotions, as you did when you were a teen. And when she hears the message, oh, it's okay, you're okay, that invalidates her experience. That invalidates the fact that she feels what she feels. It's like, oh gosh, I guess there's something wrong with me feeling this way. Oh, it's okay. Well, why do I think something's wrong? Something in my body is telling me something's wrong, but mom says it's okay. So what's wrong with me? And allow yourself to sit in the discomfort of seeing her process her emotions. Being there to hold space for her. To let her cry. To let her release anger, frustration, and just be there. Don't try to fix it. Don't try to tell her it's not okay. Don't try to tell her, you know what, you should be over this by now. Because that will teach her that it's not okay to feel feelings, and that's something that should be hidden. And then it just gets buried down, and it never gets processed. And eventually it comes out, whether it be an illness or disease, anxiety, depression, all the things, it comes out. She needs to know that it's okay for her to have these feelings. They're totally justified. And more on how you can support with that on day 3. All right, on to number 7. She needs you to trust her. And of course you trust her. She's your daughter. And trust is earned. And all of you I know are on a different level of trust with your daughter. So if you are at the beginning stages or there's something that's broken the trust between the two of you, start small to rebuild that trust. Her knowing that you trust her is essential for her learning how to trust herself. And that means not looking for external validation to prove that she's good enough. It means going to herself to look for the answers to the questions and the challenges that she has, versus looking to something outward, whether it be a person, a relationship that's dependent upon one another, whether it be drugs or alcohol, or anything that gives her a place to place her emotions. So if you trust her, it sends her a message. I trust you, trust yourself. And when she trusts herself, she depends on herself more than anyone else. And what better thing for her to have is an inner trust and relationship with herself. So when it comes to trusting her, again, it needs to be built up over time. And that comes with setting ground rules and boundaries and having really open, honest communication with her about how you're feeling and about how she's feeling. Okay, so quick review. I see some people are in here. Hello, everyone. Quick review, the 7 things your daughter wants you to know. Number 1, things are different for her. Number 2, she's doing the best that she can. Number 3, she's very hard on herself. Number 4, she needs the freedom to figure herself out. Number 5, she needs to fail. Number 6, she needs you to allow her to feel her feelings. And number 7, she needs you to trust her. So, thank you for being here, my friends. If you're here live, I know a couple of you are here and you have some questions, feel free to type in the chat. If you're here later, again, type in the chat. I'll be checking in and answering questions as I go. And also allow this to be a conversation. I'm not proposing this information as being fact. I'm simply presenting it as an opportunity for you to reflect and see how you can use this information to support your daughter, because that's what it's all about, right? And then again, tomorrow I'll be diving into her fears, and same time, same place, 5 p.m. here in this group. And I see Karen has a question. I would love to hear your question, Karen. Let's see, I guess I could bring you on. I've never done that before. Technology is constantly changing, and I don't always know how to change with it. So Karen, happy to answer any question, and thank you for being here, Barbie. I was on earlier and Barbie was there. Yes, Karen, you can chat with me after, absolutely. And I'm glad you brought that up. If there's any questions that you have that you don't want to share with the whole group, just send me a message. I am here, send me a DM. All right, my friends, thank you so much for joining me live for this free pop-up event. And I am excited to see you tomorrow for day 2. Have a good evening.